Kia ora, tēnā koutou ko maki ahu. Now my WrestleBeards worldwide.
WrestleBeards, we got all your wrestling gear. WrestleBeards, woo! Hairy men with dirty beards. WrestleBeards, worldwide.
Alright guys, welcome again to another episode and podcast for WrestleBeards Worldwide. My name's Shrek and I'm today joined by not one but two guests from my past. Ooh. First up we have returning guest and popular one at that, Cam Clark, all the way from Canada. How you doing, Cam?
Very good, thank you, Darren.
Good to have you back, brother, and we're going to have lots of good back and forth banter, I'm sure, today. And we have a new guest to the Folly. We've mentioned him on the program before. He's been a loyal fan since our humble beginnings over a couple of months ago, and we're really excited to have him on board. And it's Mark. How you going, Mark?
Kia ora, folks. Kia ora, boys. It's been too long, I think. So let's get this underway.
Exciting to have you on board, mate. Now, Mark is also an old friend of mine from New Zealand. Obviously, Mark and Cam know each other as well. We all went to school together back in the day. Mark, why don't you just start the ball rolling by letting us know a little bit about yourself and what you're up to these days?
Oh, no problem. So I work in Fiordland, which is in the south of New Zealand. It's deemed to be one of the most beautiful places on earth. And I currently live in Tiano, which is just on the edge of that. So once we get a certain thing out of the way, I'm sure everything is going to bounce back because it's a very quiet place at the moment, as you can imagine. So, oh well.
Mate, you're in the best place in the world at the moment, though, regarding this global bastard, to be fair. I know I can probably speak for Cam. The rest of the world's falling to pieces. New Zealand's doing it right.
Well, I thought I might wear a mask just to make you guys feel better, but I thought against it.
To make me feel a lot better, you just go and lock yourself in a small room for a long period of time and speak on Zoom for as long as possible. It's basically my life right now.
Yeah, sorry guys, I can't say anything. It is awesome. And let's hope we don't screw it up because we almost did the other day.
Yeah, that's true, mate. What about you, Cam? How's it going over there in Canada?
Well, there's a reason that this was the year that we did a podcast, wasn't it, mate? Like, that's about how it's going. Like, really, that's like true. Friday night. This is my Friday night, guys. Like,
looking debonair though. You've got the wine in hand, the robe on. You know, you are definitely Cam of old, Cam of new as well.
It's actually part of a new segment that I'm workshopping. Robed wrestlers. Because I think there's more than one.
Wow.
But that's new segment, Road Wrestlers, folks.
Can't wait for it. Well, as you can see, I've already screwed up the namesake of the channel. I've shaved the old beard off, so WrestleBeards is not such a great motif for the channel. My co-host of the usual podcast, Luke's a bit pissed at me. But, you know, now we've got something to watch growing, I guess. So that'll be fun.
Well, you've always been a sellout.
No excuse. Nothing, no excuse on offer. Just shaved it off.
There is an excuse, but it's a weak one at that. I actually went for a haircut and got a beard trim, but they trimmed it too high to the point where it was one of those awkward chin straps, and I just couldn't hack it. No, it was not like yours, Cam.
WrestleBeard tip: 2 fingers above the jugular. That's where you are.
I know the rule. It's a rule of thumb. But friggin' hell, man. Like, once you go too high, you can't come back from it, you know? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, enough talking about us and our lack of facial hair, if we have that. But we'll get on with the show. We'll start with our usual segment, which is we go through then, now, and forever. And Mark, you're our centerpiece today as our newest guest. How exactly, we'll start with the then. How exactly did you get into following professional wrestling, and at what age were you when that happened?
Well, I'd say I would have been 5, and the person that got me into it, his name is Elliot, but no one knows him as that. His actual name is Bundy. A bit elusive at the moment, but he definitely got things rolling, got the ball rolling. And then it was many trips, though, to the video shop with the guy in Canada right there. So
I know
many
exactly
trips.
what you're talking about, mate. Probably Bundy's got a few people into wrestling and a few other bad things in life as well. But he's quite elusive, as you mentioned, and he's quite scared to get on this podcast. So hopefully seeing your face on here today might encourage him to get on and in the mix. And yes, the video shop, videos, redundant these days, as are probably DVDs. That's how far we are into the future. I remember going along to Arne Burgess's video store in, what was it, Pauline's Video or something? I'm not going to mention what other types of videos he had on offer for rental, but yeah, I got a few of the wrestling videos from him as well. It was the good days.
Yeah, when the wrestling videos were right next to the special room.
And what you were more embarrassed to probably be watching is more the case.
I believe it had a really noisy curtain, so you couldn't sneak through if you were a kid into the special room.
That's classic. Well, Mark,
I was always wondering why when people went past me into that room, they kind of stroked my face.
That's sick. Anyway, Mark, back in the day when you first got into the love of wrestling, who were the guys you were watching and sort of getting behind, and what shows were you watching?
Well, there was this tag team that at one stage was from Adelaide, New Zealand, known as the Bushwackers. They were definitely, oh yeah. But I mean, I came into it when I got a video, and on that video was Zeus and the Macho Man versus Brutus Beefcake and Hulk Hogan.
Oh man!
So that was the era when I jumped into it, and I hadn't seen the movie, so Zeus was just another character who no-sold everything. Yeah. Oh, and rest in peace to that man as well. Rest in peace. What a legend!
Sad.
Absolute legend.
Tiny Lister. I didn't realize he was passed.
Yeah, he died this year. Well, last year probably now, actually, thinking about it. Probably COVID related, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sad. Well, yeah, Tiny Lister, that feud with Hogan and over. What was the movie? No Holds Barred, I believe.
Yes. Classic.
Classic movie. And the funny part of that was that Hogan was a character in the movie and then somewhat was playing the character on television, which made no sense. But Tiny Lister's Zeus was still the same character from the movie. So it was like, what is going on? But I think that's the thing with wrestling. Sometimes you just don't want to ask too many questions. You just have to buy into it.
Well, he died in the movie.
I also
exactly.
I also love that was during the era where everything was still like kayfabe. So it was like, yep, this is real. This is real. This actually happened.
The movie is real, guys.
Decided.
What are you talking about? And it's not even one of the worst celebrity crossovers that there's ever been. That might be a podcast for another day. But we've talked on the channel recently about Drew Carey's involvement in wrestling and so forth, and obviously David Arquette and others. But anyway, thanks, Mark, for telling us a little bit about that. So Cam and Mark and myself, we all went to the illustrious Cashmere High School. Shout out to Cashmere High School. And last time when Cam was on the show, we talked about how, our love of wrestling, bonded us a little bit. We talked about it a little bit on and off through the school days. I know that Cam mentioned in Miss Ryan's drama class, there was a bit of tomfoolery going on, a few wrestling moves thrown around. And it eventually led to a little bit more of a bigger deal when the Sprayden church brought along a wrestling ring to school. They set it up outside the old library, and what was it called? The Octagon or the Quad? Something like that. And the Cashmere Wrestling promotion was born. We were all asked if we wanted to be involved, and who wouldn't want to be? I mean, if they asked me to do it right now, I'd do it. That's how sad my life is. But we ended up like, I don't know, going to the wayside, deciding on our positions and our characters. Now, Cam and I, we were christened the tag team Hawaiian Heat. Oh, yeah.
Hawaiian Heat.
Oh, yeah. What was the slogan again, Cam?
Oh, God.
You can't handle the heat. Get out of the kitchen. Something like that. It was lame. But anyway, Mark, I don't know if you remember back vividly to that time, but you were the special referee of the event. You want to tell us a bit about what you remember about that day and why you were the referee?
Well, I think it was probably different to most wrestling matches because you didn't pay any attention to what I was saying. then I was leveled at the end of it anyway. So that was my one and only time refereeing.
It did start a mini feud though, which was quite interesting. I do believe, like I'm still quite a heavy set fella, but back then I was quite a big brute. And I do remember like giving you a famouser made famous by Billy Gunn, where I basically, you know, sat in the air on your head and brought all of my weight down on your neck, which I'm sure I wasn't doing safely.
Adrenaline gets rid of any concussions. Don't worry. The adrenaline was flowing. And back then, concussions
any other people who were involved? I know Zion was mentioned. Was there any other? Who else was there?
I don't know.
Guys, remember when concussions weren't that bad?
I think maybe Arn Burgess might have been involved.
He was always floating around. Maybe a John O'Henry in there somewhere. He always liked
John O'Henry would have been in there. I haven't heard that name in 20 years probably. No, not that long. Crazy. Okay, well, hopefully out there in the wilderness, some of our old Kashmir Folly are listening. And if it ever resurrects, I mean, I'm ready to put the Hawaiian shirt back on. Are you willing to ref, or do you want to elevate yourself to a new level?
Well, no, I'd like to ref and maybe promoter.
Yeah, you could come out as like the hiking man, or you could have some hiking gimmick. You could be the new bushwhacker.
I could be.
He's got the hiking pole. He's got the hiking pole.
No, I'd go with climber, but I don't know how I'd work an ice axe attack into the. Maybe that's my finisher, is the ice axe attack, because it would finish you. You
could be the bushwhacker. That could be your like moniker.
Yes.
And instead of doing this, you've got two ice picks. You're walking to the ring like that.
Well, new things in wrestling, they always work. So I'll just be the new bushwhackers. That's
brilliant. I think it needs to happen. Yes. And maybe to reinvent
ourselves. Plural. It's still plural, even though you're one guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still in the tag team division.
Well, one of the bushwhackers is still alive. Potentially, he could come in and be your tag team partner.
Yes.
I'm sure he's not doing much.
Can it be called the new Bushwackers 2021?
No, just the Bushwackers 2000, because that sounds futuristic.
Yes, that's brilliant. And perhaps, Cam, we could reinvent the Hawaiian Heat as Hawaiian Heat 2021. We are the sons of the original Hawaiian Heat. I think we also need to sort of evolve that story. Like, we don't know the backstory of Hawaiian Heat. Why are we Hawaiian? Why are we on fire? Why are we wrestling in the quad of Kashmir High School?
Struggle. We grew up on the mean streets of Honolulu.
Right. Our parents were army, and they were in Hawaii on a mission, and then we were born there, and we were left to die. That's sad. Okay. Yeah. Well, have you got a Hawaiian Heat name? Are you Cam, or have you got another name?
Did we? I don't know. Did we ever establish canonically that we had separate names, or were we just Hawaiian Heat?
But I think you should be Jonah.
No.
Huh? Jonah.
I was here with Cam.
I could be
man.
Papua. I think we need island names. This is getting a little racist now, so I think we'll move on. So anyway, we can move on to the
cultural appropriation.
we move on to more of the now segment, Mark. After school, we all went our own paths, obviously. We're all now in 3 continents at this current time, which is quite cool, actually. But we've all remained in contact somewhat. We're here now talking, so that's great to see. You're living in Tiana, as you've mentioned, Cam in Canada, myself over in Malaysia. Soon coming back to New Zealand, by the way. We'll talk about that off camera, Mark. But back when we were all in New Zealand, the WWE announced that they were going to do their first tour back in 2006. Now, this has been a great discussion point between Cam and myself. Now, the event in itself was to take place and did take place in Wellington. It was, you know, much...
I don't remember that one.
I know, right?
Remember. Yeah, I went to the one at the Westpac Stadium in Christchurch.
Well, this is the story, Mark. So I was living in Raglan at the time. I took a bus down because I was very excited to get down and meet you guys. You'd brought your tickets with me. You may not remember. And you guys couldn't come because the ferry had stopped working. Now, Cam doesn't remember it. You don't remember it. Yep. So either you guys have been smoking too much of the good stuff, or I have had a mental breakdown. One of the two.
No, just the folks at home should know that I either deny that this didn't happen.
You started your argument by rolling your eyes.
Memory.
That's not good stuff.
I just don't believe that you guys don't have any memory of that. That's just shocking. I mean, it's
I think
15 years ago.
It might have been 10:30 at night, and we went, oh shit, we're supposed to be doing that thing tomorrow. Inter-Islander ferry couldn't sail. Booyah, carry on drinking.
Well, I mean, it was great for me to actually be at the event, but I had 2 empty seats next to me, which was quite, you know, annoying. I had to, you know, I made friends at the event with all of the lamos that were around me, but it's just not the same as going to something like that with friends who are into the wrestling. But, you know, I think it was a year or 2 years later, they decided to come back to New Zealand. And then this time they had an event at the Westpac or Trust Bank Arena or whatever you call it in Christchurch. We did attend together, the 3 of us. And I believe we might have had Bundy and Sam along for the ride. Is that true, Mark?
Yeah, and I think Gareth was there as well.
Yeah, there was some debate over that as well. Like there was a couple of events in Christchurch, and I think we might have even gone with Gareth another time, Mark. But I know if you can't remember a trip to Wellington, I'm sure you're not going to remember another trip in Christchurch.
I know I've seen it. I watched people get into a ring and wrestle.
Well,
so,
of what you did remember, what was happening at the events, and how did it feel to be at a live show?
Well, I do remember that the final match was the Brothers of Destruction, which was cool to see. It was Mark Henry and whoever was a big heel back then. I can't remember. Mate, I don't think it was like Great Khali or anything, but someone.
I think you said it was Kennedy or something, didn't you, Cam, last time? Something along those lines.
Didn't you look up the playbill?
Yeah, but I mean, you don't want to let the truth get in the way of a good yarn as well. Like we've all got various arguments and memories and faded, jilted memories of this time. So that's the best thing about it, I think, you know?
Well, I think like the thing I can say is I saw The Undertaker have a match. And I think it's a big thing. No one can ever say that anymore now. Well, they shouldn't be able to say it. Please, just put the boots away.
Yeah, I mean, he's had more retirements than I've had girlfriends for sure. Undertaker, you know, I mean, he's had 30 years in the business. And I hope that guy's dead and buried, no pun intended. But, you know, let's move along to the next point anyway. So another thing I remember of our earlier, well, not so early, but old school wrestling memories was we watched a couple of WrestleManias at your house, Mark. Do you remember that? We got all the guys.
The Hollywood one.
We got all the guys who weren't so lame to get together, who wouldn't make fun of each other for enjoying wrestling. I think it was the usual suspects: Sam,
Well,
maybe
yeah.
Lance Carlisle was there from memory.
Could have been.
I remember your dad was watching it with us, and he was, I don't know your dad that well, Mark, but he was taking the piss out of us for watching wrestling.
Yeah.
And I remember particularly he made fun of Sam Averis, and Sam got a bit emotional about it. Do you remember that?
He did. And then he went to bed.
We could have a whole podcast about Mark's dad.
Yeah.
Mark's dad should have a Twitter feed and a podcast where he just insults Mark, because it's never in, and the variety and the political incorrectness of it is just fantastic. Like, it's a treasure. Like, no one uses the horrible gay slur like Mark's dad.
Maybe he could be potentially your tag team partner, Mark. There you go.
No, he could be a manager.
Bushwacker Senior.
Yeah.
Well, I do remember Sam getting his balls handed to him by your dad. I can't remember what it was about, but Sam was
he went to bed. So he went to bed, and we had paid for the pay-per-view, so we were going to enjoy it. And he got shitty. And came out, told us off for enjoying ourselves. There you go. That wraps him up, doesn't it? How dare we?
Well, I guess like when you have a bunch of, I guess at the time we were 20-something-year-old guys all yahooing on a Monday night in his house. He's got to get up for work in the morning. You know, we're a bunch of larrikins. I don't blame the fella. But maybe we'll get him on the show one time and give him some shit back.
Well, have you got a very, very good editor?
No.
And do you like your YouTube channel?
No, don't have that. Well, anyway, moving along, we're now in the forever and era of the podcast where we talk about a few of the future endeavors of wrestling. We're a bit older, bit wiser, maybe. Do you still watch professional wrestling, Mark?
Yes, but I don't watch the content, so to speak. So I'm a big fan of things like What Culture, Wrestling with Regret, like those sort of things.
Nice.
Where it's a whole bunch of people that are like me, who in a room, if it was a certain atmosphere, wouldn't stand up and go, yeah, I'm a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
But deep down in your heart, you really are. But if you bump into another person who likes wrestling, there's a 5-hour conversation started.
Well, I probably can speak for both of you in saying that I've been a fan in the past, and I went away from it and I came back. And there's always that thing that hooks you back, because it's male soap opera, you know, not to be sexist, but it's fun. I mean, and the fact that anything can happen in the WWE is also quite cool. I mean, you've had rapist angles with Kane jumping in a coffin, and you've had like the greatest storyline ever told of Rey Mysterio, the small guy overcoming all the odds to win the title. You've had everything.
The greatest story ever told was the saga of the gobbledygooker, I'm afraid.
It's true.
Yes.
That is true.
Who can forget that? SummerSlam 1990, I believe.
Undertaker debuted at that.
That's right. That's right. And everyone thought he might have been the one, including himself. He thought he might have been the one coming out of the egg.
You mean Kane the Undertaker?
Oh yeah, that's true as well. Ooh,
it's a deep cut, folks.
Trying to impress us with your facts now, Cam. You facts man. Anyway,
I don't care about it.
Well, he is wearing the rose.
Last time Cam was put to the test to see how much of a fan he was. So I'm going to, and he failed miserably, by the way. Mark, I'm going to put you to the same test, and I'm going to rapid fire shoot some questions at you. Let's see if you know the answers about the current product, and we'll see if you're better than Cam. Spoiler alert, everyone's better than Cam. Okay, here we go. I'm going to ask you first, can you name as many of the active title belts, or how many do you think there are first, and can you name as many of the active title belts that are on offer in the WWE at the present time?
Yep. So there's the Universal title, there's the WWE title, there's the Intercontinental title, there's the US title.
You've already beaten
There's
Cam.
the Raw tag team SmackDown tag team. Then
I
there's the
named it.
women's SmackDown, women's Raw, and then women's tag. Is there? Oh, 24/7.
Yep.
And is there 2 women's tag team titles? Or just
only
the
one. You were right on that.
There is a, okay, cool.
Not bad. There's also NXT, don't forget. And they've got their own
You're right.
selection of titles, a men's, a women's, and a tag. There's the Cruiserweight title. And then there's the WWE UK title, tag titles, and women's title. Plus, they've just introduced another one called the Inaugural Cup or something, which is some stupid title handed around. Overall, there's 19 different titles on offer in the WWE.
Don't forget King of the Ring and Money in the Bank.
King of the Ring's defunct, by the way, now.
Oh, that's how. That's how.
Corbin does have the current, character because he won it like about 3 or 4 years ago, but they haven't had one in a while. Yes, Money in the Bank, of course, one of the mainstays, and quite fun to watch as well. Okay, you get a tick for knowing more than Cam for the first question there, Mark. Who is the current WWE champion at the moment?
COVID.
Who?
Well, it was COVID for a while. COVID got in there and was like, I want a piece of that. I want a belt.
Fair enough.
So COVID
I thought
got
you
the
said
WWE.
COVID Kingston or something. Anyway, who do you really think it is?
It's the Scottish psychopath.
He's got it. Drew McIntyre. Wow, 2 from 2, Mark. I'm impressed.
He's good.
We may have to get you back on the show again.
Yeah.
Okay, who's the current Universal Champion?
It's the head of the table, Mr. Roman Reigns.
And what a performance he's putting in at the moment. I don't know if you're watching it,
Yeah,
Cam, at the moment. Roman Reigns is the Samoan brick shithouse who was floundering for a long time. He was very disliked and he was pushed down our throats as the good guy that we should all follow, but no one liked him. Now he's done this heel turn and everyone hates him, but they like him because they hate him. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's also The Rock's cousin in real life. Much the same as probably most.
There's got to be a match between those two.
Okay.
Remember how every Samoan we knew would tell us that The Rock was their cousin also? Or they knew something?
They probably weren't lying.
No, they probably weren't.
How many people are in Samoa? There's like 100 people at any time.
Less than in New Zealand. Less Samoans in Samoa than in New Zealand.
There we go. Okay.
It's true.
Next question, Mark. What we're going to talk about a different promotion, but one that's getting some traction at the moment. AEW. What does AEW stand for?
All Elite Wrestling.
Cam, you got you again, mate. It's a great promotion. I've been following it since its debut. I don't know. Do you watch much of it, Mark?
No, not really. I roughly know what's going on, and I do like it when they do get someone that the WWE's just wasted and not used properly. I reckon that's really cool, and that's how they get their biggest pops.
Well,
they do seem to have hurt a lot of their people.
Who are some of the guys that they got?
They've got Sting.
Awesome.
And he's about to have a match for the first time in like 10 years. He's in a tag match.
Woo.
Exactly. And they've also got like Cody Rhodes. They've got, who else is on there? Jake the Snake Roberts.
Get out of here.
He's a manager.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's back.
I thought he was dead.
No.
He's back.
He thought he was dead.
Yeah.
They've got Tully Blanchard as a manager on there as well. He was one of the 4 horsemen. Yeah, it's got some big names. Goldust's on there.
Tony
Chris Jericho.
Tony Schiavone.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Chris Jericho, Winnipeg connection. Have to bring it up every time I'm on the podcast.
Definitely. Well, if you watch it anyway, it has like a real like WCW 90s feel. It's a bit like different than WWE. It's darker, stadium lit. It's got a bit more of that kind of mood. And now with Sting, and they've even got Tony Schiavone as the commentator.
Yeah.
Sting! Oh my God, it's Sting!
Oh my God, Sting is in this arena.
Who's that on the rafters? Exactly. So we're gonna
They've also
have a
got
short
a
break
lot
now,
more
guys.
concussions
The
than
Zoom call's about
WWE.
to cut out. So we'll start another Zoom call and we'll continue the podcast in a moment. So stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back after a quick break and a few technical difficulties with Zoom, but we're here. Thanks for joining. So, Mark, we were just, reveling in your victory over Cam with all of your wonderful wrestling knowledge. Does that tell us that in New Zealand, wrestling's popular and cool again because you know about it? Or tell us, what is the state of wrestling in New Zealand at the moment?
I think it shows that I'm not very popular and quite uncool.
No way. Don't say that about yourself.
No, it's true. He is. He's fucking lame.
No, I think
Let's not sugarcoat it.
We're all cool. Look at me. I have toys and a belt behind me. I'm very cool. Well, what do you know about the wrestling scene?
Look at this robe. Look at this robe. Are you going to argue with this robe? Like, seriously. Okay.
Exactly. What do you know about the wrestling scene at the moment in New Zealand, Mark? Anyway.
I know that we had a guy who, what was he in for a while? Banks was his last name, and he used to come out and he had the New Zealand flag on.
Travis Banks.
Yeah.
No,
but apart,
he actually got embroiled in the big speaking out movement. He did some nasty things to women, and he got banished. He actually had a WWE contract, and they had to fire him because he was up to some lewd behavior. Naughty boy. There's also Jay White's doing some big things in New Japan Wrestling. I don't know if you've heard of him. Yeah.
a little bit.
For sure.
But I stick with WWE. I stick with what I like, and I just want to keep them trying to convince me.
Yeah, why not?
That's what I want to keep going on.
Okay, the other namesake, which I've poorly let down in recent times of this channel, is wrestling, and then we have beards. And I'm literally letting the side down on this podcast at the moment. You've both got beards aplenty. So, Mark, we've asked Cam this last time. Who's your beard doppelganger in the wrestling world? Who do you think your beard is modeled on as far as a famous wrestler?
I'd say Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's what I'll go
John
with.
Moxley, as he's known in the AEW. I can see that. Also, a bit of a few shades of AJ Styles there as well.
It's true.
The phenomenal one. Oh, that's terrible. Exactly.
I don't know what you're referring to. You look ridiculous from my point of view right now.
Well, I'm rocking the Rick Rude at the moment. You could say I've got something of a beard in play. Wow, there we go. Warriors. Loving it.
Oh, the classic colors too. That's awesome.
That is cool.
Absolutely.
So last time on the channel, Cam and myself, we issued a big challenge to yourself and to Bundy for the wrestling match of the ages that everyone wants to see. Hawaiian Heat versus Mark the Ref and Bundy. We talked earlier that Bundy's a bit of a wet blanket.
Mark the Ref. What kind of lame ass names?
Oh, sorry. Mark the Bushwacker. Bushwackers.
Wackers. There's an S. There's an S on the end.
No, he's the Bushwackers.
Yeah. Yeah, no name. Yeah.
My bad. So anyway, with your tag team partner potentially being Bundy, what have you got to say about that? And do you want to call him out on anything at the moment, Mark?
Well, I'll start with you two clowns. Like over the last year, we had a difficult year, as everyone knows. And I think throughout that year, I've come to form a greater bond and love for my fellow man. Also, in that time, I became vegetarian as well, to be nice to the plants as well. And I think that is just part of who I am now. But I'm prepared to put that all on the line.
Wow.
I'm prepared to make sure that you two little bitches don't get away with what you just said, because you know what you said is complete bullshit. You know, if I was in that ring with you two, 1 on 2, both you little bitches, you would just piss your pants. So bring a towel, motherfuckers.
I'm going to have to find the beep button for that one. Wow, that was intense. All right, I'm issuing a challenge back. So Hawaiian Heat versus the Bushwackers with Bundy, because you're the Bushwackers.
Yep.
In a loser can never eat meat again for us, but you have to only eat meat again if your team loses. Deal?
I'm gonna come to the ring with like a ribeye steak, and I'm gonna like hit you with it. Like
I'm going to wear like a Lady Gaga inspired meat suit.
You do you.
All right, that's awesome. Okay, well, we're going to get into another popular segment on the show now, which is called the WrestleBeards Top 3. And basically, every time we have a podcast, we have some kind of topic of contention, and then the guests and myself will count down 3, 2, 1 of 3 submissions, I guess, of what we feel would be, how we feel about that particular topic. So for this week, I thought there's 3 of us. We are probably the coolest guys to ever come out of Kashmir High School's wrestling world and Kashmir in general. Let's be fair. So we would probably be on the Mount Rushmore of Kashmir High, wouldn't you say?
Jeez.
Nice segue. But I thought, why don't we do our submissions for the Mount Rushmore, essentially, of professional wrestling. So each of us will, one at a time, will recount our top 3 and give a couple of reasons why. So why don't you start us off, Cam? Who's your third choice for Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling?
Okay, so my third choice for the wrestling Mount Rushmore is The Undertaker. For the simple reason, while he is not very often like in the super spotlight, in the prime position, and while he's not era defining, he bridges eras more than any other wrestler ever has. So I think it has to be, The Undertaker is my number 3.
Okay, great submission. What about you, Mark? Who's your number 3 for the Mount Rushmore?
I'm going to go with Stone Cold Stephen Austin. For New Zealanders, you might remember back in the late 90s or so, TV2 at about 10 o'clock at night, pay-per-views. Didn't have to pay for them or anything. And so that was Attitude Era, and that's where Steve Austin did his thing. So he's definitely my number 3.
I'd agree with that. In fact, my number 3 pick is going to have some contention here. Cam's already given me some grief off camera about this one. I'm putting John Cena on my Mount Rushmore. He's
controversial.
Disliked,
controversial.
But it is controversial. But he's the only guy who's held it down for the last, I don't know, 15, nearly 18 years in the business. I mean, he's been away for the recent period, but he's doing his Hollywood stuff, a la The Rock. But yeah, Cena, you can't see him, but he definitely had some great matches with all the big players. And he was a great character. I thought the hip hop character was
up too many matches.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. No, I've been waiting. Mark, you be quiet. Yeah. Darren, you be quiet. I've been waiting for this since Darren sent me this. Now, Mark, you're going to talk all about how John Cena wears cool hats. I can tell that straight away. But we need to talk about his his wrestling ability. Think about the people you're putting him ahead of, Darren. You're telling me that he deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling ahead of Bret the Hitman Hart.
I am.
Ahead of Ric Flair. Ahead of Sting. Ahead of the Ultimate Warrior. Well, okay, I'll take back the Ultimate Warrior. Like, he hasn't aged well.
Maybe his WCW run.
Wow. I'll still stand by Cena. I think Super Cena held it down, man. Maybe you weren't watching that era, but he did some big things. He was amazing. He had the 5-knuckle shuffle, man.
You mean the rip-off of the people's elbow? Like, come on. Like, here's the thing. Like, great.
He's on my Mount Rushmore.
And he's for the kids, and he's using a wanking joke as one of his moves.
Can't see me.
Okay.
Who's your wrestler who ruined wrestling?
Who's your number 2?
Wrestler who ruined wrestling. Anyway, me.
Show me who your number 2 is, Cam. Who's your number 2?
Too perturbed. I'm too perturbed. I just can't. Okay, I will. All right. My number 2 is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Because yes, as similar to what Mark said, he defined the attitude era more than any other wrestler did.
Oh, for sure. Sadly, he never got to finish out his contract with like a big match or anything, a marquee match. But definitely, he should be up there. What about you, Mark? Who's your number 2?
Well, it's just been the reverse of him. So Undertaker has to be Undertaker, a guy who can keep that character going for 30 years. He's a dead zombie Undertaker grave digging dude. Like,
let's just talk about that for a second as well. He's the dead guy, yet he's called the Undertaker. That doesn't make sense at all anyway. Yeah. Why is he dead if he's the Undertaker?
No, he's a dead Undertaker. He's both. He
could be dead anything. Why doesn't he be the dead wrestler? A wrestler who died and now he's dead.
He's a wrestler who's also an Undertaker.
He's the only one out of like Duke the Dumpster and all those other guys that kept that lame ass.
We also have wrestlers who are accountants. Okay, we have wrestlers who are accountants. We have wrestlers who are circus clowns. We have wrestlers who are dentists.
Yep.
That was Kane.
Isaac Yankem.
That was Kane.
I know.
So, their parents must be happy. One of them became a dentist turned rapist, mutilator, burned guy. And the other became wrestler, Undertaker, zombie. That's just me.
In that sense,
and
is the Undertaker's first name Zuck?
The other bit that was weird about his career was there was a portion of time where he wasn't the dead man and he was this American badass who just drove a motorbike.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not dead anymore, guys. I'm on the highway 65 or whatever. I don't know.
And like, name another wrestler who had an awesome, devastating finisher. And then they're just like, okay, you can have another awesome, devastating finisher. Fine.
Yeah.
Like, name someone who got the tombstone and the Powerbomb. You can't. It's ridiculous.
Okay, well, I'll continue on with my number 2, and I also threw Austin in the mix. How can you not have Austin on your Mount Rushmore? There was something. I think the reason people got behind him was he was giving it to his boss. Like everyone wants to tell their boss "F you" and give him the finger, but you can't do that. But he was doing that. He was beating his boss up. He was beating him up in the ring every week. And I think the best thing about that was always the good guy, Austin, was one up. And I think in modern wrestling, it's always the bad guy's one up. Always Triple H is doing nasty things, or now Roman Reigns. But the good guy is always following the coattails. But back in that Attitude Era, Austin every week got one up on the boss. Who doesn't want to see that?
He was the first anti-hero in wrestling. That's why he's so iconic. He wasn't a good guy. He was an anti-hero. Like they didn't push him as a good guy. Like and at the start, but then people just loved his trash talk. Like that's what it came down to. Like, oh yeah,
and I think beyond everything, like it was great to see his matches. The stories were always, compelling, but there was nothing better than post-match Austin. Like he's like. Even with his foe, he just beaten. He gets some beers in the ring. He's toasting with his comrades or his foes, and even like some of the guys he just beaten up. They're having a beer together, and then it's coming. The stunner kicks them in the gut and gives them the stunner. Like I still love it. And Austin has made a few guest appearances over the last couple of years since he retired. And he always comes out for the beer bath and the stunner to whoever's on at that time.
Maybe we should get him on the podcast.
I was thinking that, there was only room for 3 today. He was lined up to be here, but we chose you, Cam.
Thank you.
That is a terrible choice.
Okay, well, that leads us to our top pick, and let's start with you, Cam. Who's your number 1 pick on the Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling?
Well, I think everyone at home obviously knows that it's who it's going to be, since it wasn't mentioned in 2 or 3. It has to be Hulk Hogan. He's the guy who brought wrestling to the mainstream. Like you can't have a conversation about wrestling without his name being mentioned at some point.
Just like he can't have a conversation without being racist.
Is he racist?
Oh,
what happened here? I'm out of the loop.
He said some nasty comments. He's worse than Mark's dad.
About what race?
Black folk, I believe. He said some derogatory things about a lot of people, actually, and he had to say a lot of apologies. He had his Hall of Fame ring taken back for a while, and they weren't publicizing he was in the Hall of Fame, but he's since made amends with the company and he is back again. But yeah,
so juicy controversy. Remember his sex tape?
Yeah, he had one of them as well. Who doesn't want to see that? That's right up there with the Screech from Saved by the Bell sex tape.
Does it make me a bad person that I've seen both those tapes?
Yes, it definitely makes you a bad person.
They're both.
Did you really get them from Arn's video shop?
All right,
special room
with that talked about, how about you tell us who's your number 1 pick for the Mount Rushmore, Mark?
Well, I don't know what you guys will think. It might be a bit of a surprise, but my number 1, and like with Hogan, you can't talk about wrestling without talking about him, is Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Love it.
That's my man right there.
What do you like?
Well, he is the man. The whole thing is modeled around him, from when he merged all those smaller companies together to now he gets all the main stars and the dregs go wherever else. So he does control the industry still.
He's the one who makes the decisions. Really? Yeah.
No, that's a great pick, Mark. I haven't got him in my one, but obviously the Mount Rushmore is normally 4 heads. I'd probably be encouraged to put him as my 4th one. But my number 1. My number 1. Well, let me tell you something, brother.
What's inside?
Of course it's Hogan. I agree with the sentiments Cam put out there before. You can't have a conversation about wrestling without Hulk Hogan. And I think we've said it before, even if you've never watched any wrestling show ever, you know who Hulk Hogan is. He's synonymous with the company. He's synonymous with the art form. Whether he's just pulling out tapes with Screech or otherwise, he wasn't even a good wrestler. He was terrible.
No,
he had the leg drop. But
shittest finisher ever.
He had the stronghold for so long, and he was just that good American classic guy that everyone, I don't have any need to follow or like America, but I was American when I watched Hulk Hogan, oh man, that music played and I was like a patriot. I was like, oh man, I want to go out and get a gun.
Yeah, I said that when I was a guest on your last podcast, Darren. We're all American when we watch 80s Hulk Hogan.
That's right.
We are.
Yeah.
And you know, and since then, I mean, you know, his star is obviously not as bright as it once was. But anytime he makes a comeback, he's, you know, that music hits. Everyone still loves seeing Hulk Hogan back on the main stage. Yeah.
His politicking is why I haven't put him in there. The way he writes himself into being the hero every time.
Yeah.
And that WrestleMania with Yokozuna, that was just awful. What an end to a piece of crap.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he is becoming a two-time Hall of Famer this year. He was actually inducted last year, but they never got to do the ceremony. So he's going in this year for the NWO. So it's Hogan. They're not inducting every member of NWO because that's like 100 members.
Yeah.
But they've got Hogan, Nash, and
Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray's got to go in. Stevie Ray.
He is in the Hall of Fame with his brother, I believe.
Oh, yeah, Harlem Heat.
Harlem Heat. No, but this incarnation of NWO that they're inducting is Hogan, Nash, and Hall, obviously, the three founding members, and X-Pac, which...
And Vincent.
I was wondering why he's so, you know, renowned for that group, but he's apparently being inducted as part of NWO. Yeah, well, there we have it. Our esteemed Mount Rushmores. I think, you know, no one apart from you guys disagreeing with Cena, which I'm still going to hold down. I think we made some good picks. I guess there's some arguments, you know, to be said about The Rock not being featured. Ric Flair, Ultimate Warrior, Sting. Who else is really missing? Dusty Rhodes potentially could be up there.
Virgil.
Virgil. Hey, little fact, little unknown fact. Dusty Rhodes' actual first name is Virgil.
Yeah, it was a rib, wasn't it? Yeah.
And I think who was the African American lass who used to come to the ring with Dusty Rhodes?
Sapphire.
That was some rib on him as well. I think his he had like someone else in his family was called Sapphire or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, there we have it. Okay.
Who did that? Vince McMahon. My boy.
I love Vince.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, there we have it for another great podcast. It was good having you both on the show. I'd like to get you both back again sometime in the future, potentially with a fourth window in the corner, and we'll have Bundy on here. We could have the War of Words, maybe the match that everyone's waiting for. It's just going to be a war of words, but it could happen.
45 minutes of people yelling at each other.
No, it's gonna be us teasing Bundy about what a pussy is, and then him getting upset and disconnecting, and then coming on and apologizing for disconnecting, and then repeated.
I can see that happening. But anyway, it was a great show. Cam and I, we've been talking about having a one-off kind of show talking about the Benoit tragedy. So that may be coming our way soon, and potentially maybe you'd like to chime in on that as well, Mark, when we do that. We're probably going to get that one rolling in the next couple of weeks. Just for the viewers out there, Royal Rumble is happening Sunday in America, but Monday in most of the normal world times. I'm really looking forward to the Royal Rumble. It's one of those ones this year. No one knows who really is the guy to win it. I'm going to produce a predictions video in the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that. But otherwise, we'll see you next time for the podcast. So catch you all later. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.